Okay, well, yeah, thank you everyone for joining us today. So in this presentation, we're going to discuss the intersection of security systems and smart building systems, and essentially how they can complement each other for both a more secure building and a smarter building. To start off, I just want to give a little bit of background about who Axis are as a company. So Axis was founded in 1984 in Lund in Sweden. Fast forward a few years, Axis created the world's first network video surveillance camera, which was in 1996, and have continued to pioneer the shift in network technologies from analog solutions since then. So in terms of products and solutions that we offer, these generally fall into the video surveillance category, access control and audio systems, intercom systems, and the associated sensors. As a company, the previous year's turnover was 1.6 billion, reaffirming a steady, profitable growth. We're part of the Canon Group, so hopefully people have heard of Canon before. So we very much run as an independent company, but we have Canon that support us as a brand. And we also have 2N as part of our portfolio. So for those who don't know 2N, they created the world's first network intercom system, and we complement each other. We're very much committed to sustainability and operating as an ethical company. So since 2007, we signed the UN Global Compact, and we also have a very strong focus towards cybersecurity, and we have the ISO 27001 certification. We very much value our partnership, and without our partner ecosystem, all of these people here today, we couldn't do what we do. In terms of operating and selling our products, we run a two-tier business model, which reaffirms our commitment to all of our partners. In terms of operating globally as a company, so we have offices in over 50 countries. I think we're around 5,000 employees now. 62 sales office globally, so you're never too far from an Axis support center. So looking at the trends within the security industry, so what we're seeing as a company is the increased use of cameras as part of a security strategy. Technology is advancing, and security cameras are becoming a central part of all security strategies. Never before have employees and premises wanted to be more secure. And everything needs to be connected, not just with other security systems, but with smart building systems and other IoT sensors. And we're also seeing a large shift towards artificial intelligence. And I know it is a bit of a buzzword that a lot of people like to talk about, and we like to reaffirm that we want to operate ethically towards using artificial intelligence. And a lot of that is enabling powerful analytics to be run within our devices. And we need that to operate on a cyber secure manner to ensure when we are doing smart things, we also want it to be secure. And we also have never before been under more scrutiny as a company and as an industry with sustainability and ethics. So whilst we do come from a traditional security background, and we have a very long-standing reputation within that area, we're seeing more and more use cases and opportunities beyond security. And one of the biggest sectors that we're supporting is smart buildings. So if we look at some of the trends in which we support smart buildings as a security company, so enabling secure access control through a building, but in advanced ways. So whether that's using a mobile phone credential from the likes of smart spaces, or using your face to open a door. that is growing more and more as a requirement. And looking at surveillance sensors, surveillance cameras, they are now a core part of an IoT ecosystem within that smart building. A camera is no longer just a device to catch intruders. It's a powerful sensor used to collect enormous amounts of data. And we also need to make buildings more secure and ensure that they have prominent health and safety measures. And a lot of the requests that we receive around using our devices to plan around occupancy levels. And this overall makes employees feel more safe within the workplace. So if we look at all of these devices, whether that's a bullet camera or a PTZ camera, an intercom system, traditionally, these were all bought just for security purposes. And they're in almost all commercial buildings already. So that was their primary purpose as a security device. But these days, these devices are so sophisticated, they're almost like mini computers, and they're capable of collecting enormous amounts of data through the sensors that are embedded. But it's what we really do with this data that matters. I mean, traditionally, you'll see people just collecting enormous amounts of data. I mean, a surveillance camera generally runs for 24 hours a day recording in a premises. That is a hell of a lot of data. But it's what we actually do with it that matters. And what I like to reference is what we call the data, information, knowledge, and wisdom pyramid. And you can see the more questions that we ask about the data, the more value that it gives us. And what I believe that we should be aiming for is wisdom, which is right at the top. And this is essentially where we're asking the data, well, what can I do next? What action can I take? We want that data to perform decisions for us and make us more efficient. So if we look at some of the different use cases that are enabling this more proactive way of using the devices, a lot of that is around applications and analytics that are embedded within the cameras. So in the security industry, if you go to any security show, that is all everyone talks about, is analytics. So why is it ramping up so much now? Why is it so much of a trend? Essentially, the processing power of the system on chip within a device is now so powerful that we don't need sophisticated server architecture to run these complicated analytics. So it makes it more affordable, and we can also be more accurate by processing that raw data. It's also so much easier for the user to use complex analytics. It can take as much as 5 minutes to set up an application. And the modern programming languages that we are using, they're more accessible. So more and more developers can develop applications for different use cases. So within Axis devices, we operate a platform called ACAP, which stands for Axis Camera Application Platform. And I like to refer to it a bit like having the App Store on your phone. So whilst Apple might make some of their own apps, they have thousands of different developers making different apps. And essentially, that is what we have within our devices. So we make some of our own applications, but we also have lots of different innovative companies developing applications that can run on our devices. So if we look at the different use cases for these applications, these are generally split into 3 different areas. So we have security functions, we've got safety functions, and then we have operational efficiency. So I'm going to explain a few different use cases of each of these, which we can offer within our devices. So to start off with the security use cases. So this application which we're showing here is what we call Axis Object Analytics. So it's based on a deep learning AI model where we can classify different types of objects. And off the back of that, we can create rules. So in this example, we're classifying a car, and we want to alert within a time frame that it shouldn't be within that area. And we can then essentially create an alert within the security system, or we can translate that into the smart building system to also create an action. Another example within the same application is a line crossing detection. So here we've drawn a virtual line, and we can define the direction in which an object can and can't travel over the line in which it can create an alert. And also we'll filter based on the object. So here you can see a car isn't triggering the alarm, but if a person walks into that area, we can trigger the alarm. And again, that's allowing different triggers, whether that be a speaker or a siren or another alarm within the building, to be notified. Facial recognition is a very topical point within the industry. And like I mentioned previously, in the past, some of these sophisticated applications could only run on very expensive server hardware. But in this day, we can run these applications based on the edge, allowing it to be more affordable, more accurate, more efficient. So we could use that for a security function. So you could have a watch list of people that could cause a threat to your building. But I've also personally seen, say, hotels using it for a VIP experience. So you could have a VIP customer turn up, and suddenly someone's turned up to give them their favorite drink. And they think it's great customer service, but it's based on a facial recognition application supporting them knowing that customer has turned up into the building. So now to look at some of the safety use cases. So this could be for road safety, smoke and fire detection, and even sound analytics. So in this example here, could we play the video, please? There we go. So in this example here, we're combining both a visual camera sensor and actually a radar. And the benefit of using the radar sensor is we can actually track the speed of vehicles. So this is combined with both the visual sensor to actually overlay the speed in which a vehicle is traveling. So let's say you've got a large commercial premises and you want to ensure people stick to the right speed limits. We can then say create an alert based on a siren or a speaker, or we can actually choose to export that as, say, a CSV file and put that into a smart building system and enable that to create more data and overall create a safer workplace. Another unique application is from a company called Arani. So whilst this doesn't replace a traditional certified fire alarm system, it's designed to detect fire and smoke early. So we can actually catch that before it's got to such a size where it's become extremely dangerous. Or we can also see if there is people within the scene and what is the danger to those people. So I've personally seen that being used within the data center environment, where they was actually having new tenants come into the building and they was pulling up the floor panels, and that was kicking up a load of dust, which was basically triggering the fire alarm. And they was getting lots of unhappy customers, whereby they was just having to evacuate the building based on these false alarms. They're now using such application to integrate with the fire alarm system to get that visual representation if it is a real fire or if it is a false alarm, enabling them to actually give a better customer experience. So whilst most of the other applications we've discussed have focused on a visual sensor, we can also create alerts based off of audio. So that could be an external microphone, or we now even have microphones embedded within the camera. So these different use cases here, we can trigger alerts based off of shouting. So it detects the sound waves and the frequency And then we can then create an alert. So if someone is shouting at the receptionist, that can then create an alert to, say, the security control room to enable them to assist. Again, we can detect the frequency of screams. So if somebody has fallen, we can enable a faster response for those. And we can also see sudden peaks in sounds and enable different operations to act upon those. So finally, we'll look at some of the operational efficiency use cases. So one which is used a lot within the smart building space is queue monitoring. So let's say if you have a large multi-tenanted building, you have lots of visitors. Nobody likes standing in a queue, do they? So this application enables us to detect how many people are within the queue and gain data insights on what are those busy times. We can then allocate staff accordingly. We can create an alert to, say, trigger a speaker message within the staff room and say, could you attend reception because we have too many people there? So it's allowing us to use what would usually be just a security device to enable us to have shorter queue times. So in this example here, we're actually doing counting based off of the deep learning recognition. So a standard people counting system generally works on a top-down view where it has to be positioned in a certain way for people to cross that virtual line. Whereas if we're classifying the actual objects, we can gain further insights based on, is it a bike? Is it a bus? Is it a car? And we can feed that data in and, hopefully make a smarter building, a smarter city off the back of that. So you might have already seen us displaying this here today. This is object and area counting. So we can classify the humans within the scene or cars, and we can then count. So in this example, within our office in Lund in Sweden, we can actually see how many car parking spaces are available. We also use it within the gym in the office. So you can see the busy times within the gym and whether or not you would like to attend or not. So whilst all of them applications offer smart integration within a security system, if you would like to use that within a smart building environment, it's important to plan your integration with the other systems. So who here has heard of MQTT before? I'm hoping most people within the smart building industry are aware of MQTT, but just to explain a standard explanation of that, it's essentially a very lightweight publishing protocol. So it enables different devices to communicate with each other in that ecosystem to feed that into, say, a smart building platform. So within a standard security VMS ecosystem, we would operate what we call an RTSP stream, real-time streaming protocol, where we're looking at video streams. Within a camera device, you can actually take more than one stream. So you could have the RTSP stream going to the security function, but you might also want an MQTT stream going to the smart building application. And therefore, one system is seeing the data they need in terms of the video data, but the other department can just see that numerical data that they would like to use. So an example that could be using a people counter, such as putting it in an entrance like we've got above here today, and then feeding that data into a dashboard to enable us to make informed decisions within the building. We could also choose to integrate via an API. So Axis have a platform called Vapix, which is essentially an open API which allows different technology partners to create different use cases and smart applications with our devices. And one final point which I would like to discuss is just because something is smart, we shouldn't ignore the fact of cybersecurity. We traditionally come from a security background, so naturally we will always care so much about cybersecurity. And if I was to give 3 recommendations, that would be validate your entire supply chain. And that isn't just the device manufacturer, the installer, that is everyone that is involved in your entire supply chain, whether that's the distributor, the consultant, the end user that's using it on a daily basis. There's more than just the device manufacturer and the installer. The entire supply chain needs to care. And essentially, cybersecurity is only strong as the weakest link. So we need to ensure everyone is up to speed with their cyber due diligence. It sounds a fairly basic one, but ensure that you have very secure account and password policies. Who has access to the systems and do they need to have that access? And what is the password policy that are they using? Within the security industry, I've seen so many times of installers just using the same password across every site. I used to work for an installer, and if we were to take over a site from a different installer, our engineers could essentially guess the password based off of the previous installer that was in there. So we need to move towards more secure password policies. And finally, what is secure on day one isn't secure forever. The reason we have firmware updates is, one, for new features, but also to patch updates within the devices. And that is so important. So again, if you look at a traditional security installer, they might look at maintenance as cleaning the camera lens. Is there cobwebs on my lens? But it's just as important, if not more important, to be updating that firmware and software within the camera system. So to summarize, I believe security and smart building functions need to embrace the opportunity to work together. So many times I've seen on projects, you've got your smart building team on this side of the room, security on that side of the room. Security don't want to do what the smart people are doing because they don't think it's secure, and it just creates a lot of battle. But there is so much opportunity to work together. The security functions complement the smart functions, and the smart functions complement what security can provide. And that is all about using security devices for more than just the basic applications. Many of the use cases that we discussed today, that they're ready to go. Some of them not with even an additional cost. So if you are using these devices in your buildings already, is it capable of doing more than it's currently doing? It's not going to cost you any more if it can process these complex analytics. And finally, don't lose sight of the security risks of the interconnected devices. Just because something is smart, we still need to do all of that due diligence into, is it secure to sit on our network and in our building? Thank you very much. So if anyone has any questions at all, then please fire away.
Hey. Oh, there we are. Do you encounter any challenges with the facial recognition product that you have? Like, in terms of like masks, glasses, hats, like how do you conquer those challenges?
So the facial recognition application is based on one of our partners, and there is many different partners that offer it, and essentially they have installation recommendations. So that'll be based on the pixel count within that face that they're trying to operate. But yeah, nothing is perfect. If you have different lighting conditions, it can affect it. That's the same with any analytic. Some people want to buy an analytic and think, oh, that just works like magic. But if you have no light within the scene and there is no data for their camera to accurately see, it's going to struggle, basically.
Thanks. You mentioned that you had like an app store style thing for where your partners can and anyone can create an app. How do you make sure that those apps are then secure to be used on your devices? You know, that there's not any malicious.
So we have what we call the technology integration partner program. So we have a team within our headquarters in Lund that work with our different partners and validate if, one, they are ethically suited to working with our company, and two, are they a secure application. But what I would always recommend is also do your own due diligence. It's the same as any application you put on your phone. Apple isn't responsible for, or Android for that matter, isn't responsible if there is a risk on that application. You also need to do your own due diligence on that application.